What's going on, everybody, and welcome to the Other Side of the Firewall podcast, where we talk about the latest and greatest of cybersecurity news, as well as we highlight those movers and shakers and glass ceiling breakers, those people of color who've made it to the other side of the proverbial firewall. My name is Ryan Williams, and as always, I'm joined by Shannon Tynes.
What's up? What's up?
What's going on? This should be Tuesday's episode if you're tuning in, so definitely go back and listen to Monday's episode, where we discussed how literally a USB drive blew up in somebody's face, and just the ramifications and kind of how that happened and what you should do to avoid it, which is common sense. So you don't have to listen to know how to avoid it, but you should listen to let's talk about it. So definitely tune in for that. And then Wednesday we'll have a discussion, and then Fridays we talk about everything else, so non-cybersecurity related, so movies, books, TV shows, games, all that stuff. So definitely tune in for that as well. Without further ado, I'll give it to Shannon.
All right, everybody. So this article comes from therecord.com, and it is written by Martin Matashak, and it's titled, U.S. Military Needs Seventh Branch Just for Cyber, Current and Former Leaders Say. So this was the Military Cyber Professionals Legislative Affairs Office that actually put a memo out for Chairman Reed and Rogers, right, which were ranking members Wicker and Smith as well. So what they want to do is they want to establish the United States Cyber Force. So we just had the Space Force established back in 2019, and they're saying, okay, what we need is a force dedicated solely to cyber and not rely on each one of these different branches to have their own ways of dealing with it, right? They think that's inefficient, right? Now, mind you, there's no rush for this. They're not saying, hey, we need to do this within the next year, 2 years, or whatever. They do want to take the time to figure out how it needs to be implemented to make sure it's done correctly, right? And all in all, to be honest with you, like, this sounds good, right? But from my standpoint, I don't know if it's necessarily something that is needed. I think because we already have, and here's the thing, I said the same thing about the Space Force. We already had different elements within the branches that we had that were doing things that were specific to space, right? I think it was just a matter of dedicating the proper time and training personnel to these different things that should have been done. And I feel the same way with this. I don't think we need to stand up another branch because it is expensive, right? So like, standing up the Space Force, like, it is not like you're just grabbing people, you know what I mean, from the other forces and standing them up and putting them here and doing that. No, there's other things that go into that, right? You got to build buildings, you got to decide where, you know, the headquarters is going to be housed, and you go back and forth on that, on whether or not it's going to be in Colorado or Alabama, you know, things like that are happening with the Space Force, right? Like, I like the enthusiasm of realizing the importance of it, but to say to give it another branch just to do that, there's funding that comes with that where the defense budget is always fought over, right? Like, it's one of those things where it is contentious all the time. And I'm not trying to get into the political side of it, right? But I'm just talking from the avenue of, okay, how would we really make this happen, right? If there's already contention with how much money is being spent on DoD spending now, we're up over, you know, $800 billion or whatever the figure is now, right, every year. Like, I don't see how you make it happen where you add another branch, especially so soon after adding the Space Force, right? And when I say so soon, right, again, even though they're not in a rush, it was 72 years since the formation of the Air Force. I think it was 72 years or 74 years, something like that, from the formation of the Air Force to
Right.
to the Space Force. 72, because it was 1947, right?
Yeah, 72.
September 18th, 1947. Do I still have that right? That was when I had this study for all the time, right? September 18th, 1947.
PDG, pull PDG out real quick.
Yeah, there you go. Yeah. but yeah, so like, it's one of those things where I don't think it's something that needs to have that much money and planning going towards it. We just need to take care of what we have now and be serious about the implementation for everything that goes into it, right? So I just, like, I don't know. You do need a thorough study. I agree with that, because they want a thorough study to determine what the military service should look like, how it should be implemented, the applicable timeline, but it's just not something that I think is needed. We already have these things in place. Just utilize what is already there. You don't need to, because here's the thing, like, if we're not utilizing what's there in the branches already, how is it going to be different with the new force standing up, right? Like, if you're not taking it serious now, in its current implementation, what makes you think you're going to take it serious when it's its own branch, right? In that case, you're just throwing money at it to hope that it comes off doing what we, as cyber professionals, IT professionals, would like for it to do. But I'm not trying to throw good money after bad, so to speak, right? Because we're already paying our taxes for the Department of Defense to do what it does and all the branches that have the cyber entities in them. So I don't know. I like the idea of taking cyber serious, but to have a seventh military branch for it, I'm just not on board. But what's your thoughts on this, Ryan?
Yeah, I feel the same way, right? So I think you had already retired before the Space Force was formed, right? Before that deadline where they flipped and people start switching uniforms.
Yeah.
Um, I was there for that, and it was rough. I think it was handled very successfully. It's just it was a lot of it was reactionary over like they did as much as they could to get ready, and then when they flipped the switch, obviously there's going to be some issues or whatever. Um, and I can say, and now I can speak openly because I retired on the first. So
Yeah.
I am now a retiree. Um, I also don't believe it's necessary, right? All the branches do it in some capacity. It's a matter of focus. Like, so Space Force was formed for focus, right? Like the Air Force was already doing it, but there was no focus specifically on certain strategies. So they're like, we'll create another branch. They'll be focused specifically on that. And I get it. But you don't just create a branch with a pipeline to start sucking people in. You take from what you currently have. So you have to carve up. In the article, they said about 6,200 personnel have to be carved or cold, which I always found that to be a negative term. That's when you slaughter
Right.
sheep, right?
Yeah, yeah. That's what I thought. Yeah.
um, from the other services. So you're gonna have to rip out personnel who are already doing mission work and then make them go elsewhere. Flip uniforms in this case and start to work on a different mission. Um, can we just pay for someone else to do it? Is my question. Like I know it's very expensive, because I get there's two different strategies, right? Like you have to have the military involved in it if you want to do anything offensive. You can't have civilians do that. You can't attack other countries per se without certain titles, right? Title 10 versus other titles, yada yada yada. So the person on the keyboard hitting enter that causes a kinetic type effect somewhere else, a power grid goes down, a nuclear plant stops to function, yada yada yada, has to be in uniform in some capacity. I get that. But all the people around them, it's like we currently do. We have civilians, contractors, things of that nature who augment that, who have specific training and expertise that don't have to move around every couple of years like the military does for progression. They don't promote out of a position and then they can no longer do it, right? These people are hired to do a specific thing. They just can't drop the bomb per se. Um, why don't we do that instead of 6,200 military members? Let's have a few hundred military members who can do those things when they do come up, but then have a majority where you just hire a bigger firm to provide the expertise. Because what's going to happen is you're going to train these people. There's going to be a pipeline, right? You're going to bring the people in. You're going to have like a year of training to make them elite at what they do, then more years of training, and then they're going to leave because the money is better on the outside. So you're basically going to be training up people to go do it for somebody else anyway. Why not start there? Is my question. If you're already going to spend millions, why not spend billions and hire a firm to do it for you, and then embed the military in there in some capacity? Get a big, Northrop or a Booz Allen or someone to kind of do this for you, who will have it's going to charge you double what they're paying the person, right? So like if you think a professional who can do whatever you want them to do in this capacity for cyber, it costs you, let's say, 200,000. They're gonna charge you 400,000 for this person because they have overhead. They got to pay out healthcare and things of that nature. They have to make a certain profit, yada yada yada. But I think that would be it can be done quickly because you're going to bid for contracts. They're going to hurry up and try to win those contracts, and it can be done. It can be sustained because you won't have a pipeline of military members. I keep want to say blue suiters because I'm Air Force, but whatever color cyber is going to be, purple suitors, who are going to go in and out really quickly. Like after I get that couple years of elite hacking training, I got that cyber professional. I'm going to go work for somebody else, potentially.
You bring that up, but here's the thing, right? So I have seen these numbers before. Now, how legit they are, I don't know, right? But like, um, when you're talking about bringing somebody else in, like
Mhm.
military, the Department of Defense has determined that is cheaper than having a military member do that, right? So like when the way that they do the maths on this, right, is yes, they are going to pay out, a person that has a more of a skill set than what the military member may have, right? But people are the most expensive asset that the military
Yeah.
deals with, right? So like when it comes to your healthcare, your housing, the different benefits you're getting paid, right? Like if you decide to retire, they're paying you for breathing until you die, you know what I mean?
Mhm.
Things like that. They run the math on this and said that
Amen.
it is true. Yeah, yes, yeah, agreed, right? Right. So like they run the math on this and said it is cheaper to, you know, pay out that $400,000, for a person that may do, like they have the skill set to do what three people may be doing, you know what I
Right.
mean, in the military, right? So like, it's one of those things where they run the math on that, and I haven't seen figures for this recently, right? Like I've been retired for a little over 4 years now, and then, you know, things may have changed, but yes, the people are expensive, right? Like,
Yeah.
and the housing, to feed them, the benefits you give them. So there was a point there where like they were talking very seriously about just outsourcing everything, right? Like it would be, okay, we need intercompany's name here to provide this. It'd be this as a service, this as a service, this is a service. You know what I mean? Software, infrastructure, whatever it may be, right? Um, that was a legitimate thing, and it did save them money for the, you know what I mean. I doubt they would do that if they didn't look into it and see that it was a
Right.
cost saving measure. So I mean, you bring up a good point though. I mean,
Yeah. Just call somebody else, and then like they build it up to a point where the button needs to get hit, and then that will be the the whomever, right? The cyber captain or whatever they'll be called, right? Um, that's just my opinion. But again, like there's smarter people than me in the room figuring it out because Space Force did work. Like they were able to make it work. I don't know specifically about mission or whatever because I was not a guardian, so I don't know about all that. Right? I just saw that they were able to put people in uniform and put them in the right, uh, so I guess the right places to do whatever.
I'll tell you this. I'll tell you what my experience was. I didn't see them put people in uniform. I just saw them change the patch that said Air Force to Space Force. They were already performing the duties. That's what I'm seeing.
I'm muted. Yeah, so yeah, they're already there, right? Yeah, so yeah, so I don't believe it to be necessary, but again, it's not a decision on my part. But the Air Force is already doing space. But you talk to a Guardian, maybe they'll say otherwise, right? Like now, my focus is more on what uh, we should have been doing when we're just one service, not the Department of the Air Force, right? But just the Air Force. But we'll see. Like I don't foresee them create a new branch anytime soon. But if they do decide, again, I don't think it should be uh, determined based upon having it be mostly military, just because of the skill set required, the pipeline, and then the retention. Retention is going to be hard once you make these people what you want them to be. So, but or pay them what they would be paid on the outside. But again, like you said, people are expensive. Yeah, you have to pay them that plus housing, food, clothing. There's a lot. So, but no, I think this is a good, like this could have been the discussion topic of the week. I think this is a pretty good one. But definitely continue to tune in throughout the week. Again, Wednesday is our discussion, and then Friday we talk about everything else. Hit up the websites that go by our name. And then hit me up personally. I'm at RyRy Security Guy. That's RYRY Security Guy. I'm on LinkedIn, Twitter, and Clubhouse. Stay safe, stay secure.